Okay, well, sometimes on Vena Teaches, we do some fun things and learn some new facts. And sometimes we look at foodstuffs and where they came from, or we might have a conspiracy theory or something. Hey, cocktail conspiracy hours coming up. But I just, I'm a little concerned, a little stressed over the lack of information people have, just general knowledge about our government. Like, they just don't know basic facts about it. And so, what I want to do is have a little snippet of some basic government, American government facts, just so that if you're ever in a conversation with somebody, you're going to know the right thing to say. We're going to learn something. Even if you already know this is a good refresher for you, just in case, because right now on the news, all we're hearing about is the government, the government, the government. Okay, you need to be aware. You need to understand about the government so you can understand what is being said to you. Okay, so here are some basic facts. Our government is a republic. What that means is that we, the people, elect people to represent us. Now, some things we directly go to and vote on, other things we put our trust in someone to represent us. We're a republic. Now, the founding fathers, having come off of a war with Great Britain, all right, having come off of this war, dealing with a monarch. A monarchy is where you have a king or a queen, okay? They decided they didn't want that. That's not what they wanted. They didn't want the king or queen. Now, I have a great story about that later, but they decided they want a representative, a republic, and they wanted three branches of government. Okay, there are three branches of government. The first is the executive branch. Now, the executive branch of government consists of the president, the vice president, and his or her cabinet. Now, the cabinet is a group of advisors for the president. Now, look, if I became the president, I don't want to be the president. I have no desire to be the president. This is not Vena 2028. I wouldn't want the job. Okay. Why anybody would want to be the president, don't know. But being an educator, I could be rocking the education stuff. Probably pretty smart on some other things. Other stuff, wouldn't want to be the one making all the decisions on that. I want someone to help me make the best decisions possible. I want someone that knows what's happening. So I have the Secretary of the Treasury. I can't do that. I need an expert. So Secretary of the Treasury, Secretary of Defense, Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary of Education, Secretary of Homeland Security, those are the cabinet members. And what they do is they enforce the law. They enforce the law. That's the job of the executive branch. Now, the next branch is the legislative. In the legislative branch, their job is to create or make the laws. Now, there are two law-making bodies in the legislative branch. That's called think bicycle, two wheels, bicameral. That means two law-making bodies. Now, why do you have two? Well, back when they were trying to decide about making laws in the branch of government, they had a big hoo-ha about representation. And one of the things was, hey, we think that representation should be based only on the population. So the bigger the state is, the more people we have, we should have more people in Congress to represent us. And that's when that was called the Virginia plan, because Virginia was the biggest, wealthiest state. Well, here comes New Jersey representing the small states saying, that's not fair. I think it should be equal. Every state should have an equal number in this lawmaking section of the government. So and that was called the New Jersey Plan. So you have Virginia and New Jersey, and they're like, no, it should be population, and no, it should be equal. And so here is the Great Compromise. It's literally called the Great Compromise. The Great Compromise says, hey, let's do two lawmaking bodies, one based on the population of the state and the other based on equal in the state. So we have the Senate, okay, which is equal. Two people from every state go to the Senate. The House of Representatives is based on population. Depending on your state's population is how many people that you send to the House of Representatives. Now, example, Alabama, where I'm from, we send 7 people. California, it's like 53. Okay. Big difference in the population, see? So together, the House of Representatives and the Senate is the Congress. Together. Okay? All right. The House and the Senate make up the Congress, which make up the legislative branch. All right? Now, the last branch is the judicial branch, and the judicial branch interprets the law. They're the ones who say, I think that law y'all just came up with may not be constitutional. I don't think so that's the Supreme Court, the federal courts. It's our court system. Okay. And so those are the 3 branches: executive, legislative, judicial. Now, to run for the president of the United States, you have to be at least 35 years old. You have to live in any state in the United States. Okay. You have to be a natural born citizen, natural born only. Okay. Now, you serve a 4-year term, and you can serve 2 terms. Now, I'm not bringing in, well, what if someone dies? And we'll talk about that later, but you get to serve 2 terms. To run for the House of Representatives, you have to be at least 25 years old, live in the state you represent. You have to be natural born or naturalized for 7 years. Naturalized means you've taken the oath to be an American citizen, and we've talked about that before. And you serve 2 years for your term, but you can run as many times as you want. Okay? That's a whole nother conversation. Senate, you have to be 30 years of age or older to be a senator. You have to live in the state you represent. You have to have been a naturalized citizen for 9 years before you can run, or of course, natural born. Now, your term in office is 6 years. And again, you can run as many times as you want. And as witnessed, all you have to do is look at the Congress. There's a lot of people that have been around a long time. Yes? Okay. So how do they check and balance? How do we keep one? Who keeps the Congress from being so much bigger and bossier and better than the executive and better than, okay, they check and balance each other. Okay. So the president has his cabinet. He gets to pick who he wants, but guess what? The Congress has to approve of them. It doesn't have to be a major majority. It can be 51 to 49. Okay. So they have to approve of his cabinet choices. All right. So the president also can appoint Supreme Court justices and federal court appointees, judges. He puts them up, he recommends, he appoints, and then they have to be approved. Okay. Not by a major majority, but it can 51%. Okay. So we have that. The legislative branch is just going to be throwing out laws left and right. But if it gets to the president's desk, the president can veto it and say, I am not signing this. This isn't what I want for the American people, or whatever their reason is. He can veto, or she can veto, any law. Now, if the president vetoes a law, it can be sent back to Congress and they can say, "Ho, not so fast there, Prez. We're going to override your veto." But to override something that the president has done or decided, it has to be 2/3 of Congress has to say, "We're overriding your veto." 2/3. Okay. Now, how does the judicial branch check and balance the executive? They tell acts of the president or acts of congressmen that they're unconstitutional. This law is unconstitutional, or your executive appointment is unconstitutional. And you can impeach. The president can be impeached. The people who are on the Supreme Court can be impeached. Okay. So there are ways to check and balance power. Now, my last little thing today is taxes. And I'm not going to get into a philosophical debate. That's for another show. But the president of the United States cannot on their own just raise or lower taxes. They can't. Congress has to approve it. Okay. It's like when people say, well, President so-and-so, he got us into, okay. A president can ask for a declaration of war, but Congress has to approve it. So we're just debunking these myths left and right here. But listen, civics is important. Since they are not emphasizing it in the schools on any SAT test, PSAT test, ACT test, none of those tests have any component about history or civics. Okay, none of them. Nary a one. Okay, so it's time, folks. It is time that we as Americans learn about our government, because here is what I'm going to leave you with. This has been going on for 30-something years, this de-emphasis of civics and history in the schools. The less we know, the more that we don't get to hold people accountable for what they're supposed to do. If we are ignorant of what the laws are and what the Constitution says and what their jobs are up there in Washington, D.C., if we're ignorant of what they're doing, we can't hold them accountable. Okay. And we've got to. I mean, this is our government, and we've got to hold people accountable. Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, liberals, moderates, everybody. I'm not playing a party card. Okay. Everybody that is being paid with your tax dollars needs to be held accountable for their job. Everybody. Okay. Doesn't matter which party they're in. They need to be doing their job. And if we are not aware of how their job works, they're going to keep doing what they're doing. Okay. Now, Cocktail Conspiracy Hour coming up soon. Tune in. Hey, listen, I hope you learned something new or either got a refresher today. Look, I'd love for you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Venna Teaches. We're going to have a good time, learn a lot of things you probably never knew, I hope, refresh on the other. But if you're not trying to learn history from me, find someone else who you need to learn it from. Just learn it from the perspective of there's no hidden agenda or outside perspective. It just needs to be the facts. So anyway, I hope you have a great day, and I will see you soon.